Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we have another devblog for two machines, the Char 25t and of course, or the Char 25t I should say, and the T-80B. Now earlier we were able to catch the Russian and the English streams for both of these vehicles, and it was kind of nice to see them in game, and I think I can give a little bit of perspective, which maybe the devblog doesn't show. But if you want to see those streams in their entirety, just go back in the channel. I would watch the 2-hour one if you have time, because after about the hour mark, we just start doing straight Q&A about our thoughts on helicopters, the new vehicles, and generally what we would like to see going forward. I think it was a really good discussion with a few laughs and a lot of actual proper discussion, and yeah, so if you want to see that, I'd definitely say go ahead with it. Anyway, let's get into this devblog. The T-80B, this is going to be the new king of the Soviet line. This is the new Soviet MBT, which was developed in the mid-1970s and was the first massively manufactured MBT in the world to be powered by a multi-fuel turbine engine. The T-80B will become available to experienced tankers at the top ranks of the Soviet ground forces tree with the release of update 1.81. Equipped with Cobra ATGMs and an additional 30mm of armor plating on the front hull, the T-80B is a very fast and agile tank. With a 125mm smoothbore cannon, the composite armor, the T-80B sports two types of APF SDS shells, capable of penetrating over 470mm of armor. It can additionally be armed with HE shells, heat shells, and anti-tank guided missiles. A decisive top-tier hero for high-ranked battles, the T-80B rolls onto War Thunder's battlefields with major update 1.81. So that is what the devblog says about it, but in the stream, there was a lot more said. So let's go into the general things about the T-80. First of all, the way a lot of people are describing it as an upgraded T-64, and it kind of makes sense, to describe it as that. The first thing is, the gun is pretty much exactly the same as what you're going to find on the T-64. The ammunition that was shown on the stream was exactly the same as what you get in the T-64, so from that point of view, the ammunition which you're going to use, the APF SDS, it's going to be the same as from the T-64B, but that ammunition is still great. It's still good enough, easily at top tier. The main things that were kind of surprising was the actual armor on this machine. The armor, the way to describe it is it's worse than the T-64B's, at least from first outlook. And if we compare it to the T-64A, it's slightly better than the T-64A, only slightly, but it's worse than the T-64B's. This means that the upper glacis can be penned by anything which is using its proper round at top tiers. Remember, this is going to be a 10-0 vehicle. So what they did in the stream is they looked at the 7.74 round from the Abrams. There was plenty of places on the upper glacis it could easily penetrate, and the turret. So what you can't do with this machine is rely on its armor, especially when stuff like the Leopard 2A4 and the Type 90 is concerned. Something else to also realize is it has exactly the same autoloader as the T-64, so we should be looking at exactly the same reload rate from that. The main difference, though, between the T-80 and the T-64 that we have in game is the engine. That was one of the most interesting things I saw on the stream itself. The engine meant that 0 to 50 kilometers an hour in a straight line was done in about 5 seconds. That is a drastic improvement over the T-64. Going backwards, by the way, this is all realistic, battle stuff. So going backwards, it was able to go 10 kilometers an hour in reverse. So with all that said, what we're getting here is a slightly less armored T-64B, with a lot more engine power. And I think if we look at the general meta of top tier, that is great. That is something that is desperately needed from a Soviet point of view. If we look at the general triangle that we have in the game, the armor, speed, and gun, the T-64 was good in the armor section, not great in the speed section, but good in the gun section. With the introduction of the Type 90, the Leopard 2A4, and even, I suppose, you could go back to the Abrams, The T-64 struggled with the aspect of speed, meaning that getting around the battlefield was not always the easiest, and with these new APF SDS rounds from the 120s on the Type 90 and the 2A4, the armor aspect that in update 1.77 it had on its side, well, the BV modification did not help enough with it. It still now can easily be frontally penned by any top-tier machine apart from the Abrams, where the Abrams at least has to aim a little bit. The 2A4 and the Type 90, the other two popular ones, and the AMX-40 don't have to aim. They just have to shoot at the damn thing. So the T-80 takes the fact that it loses some of the armor of the T-64B, which was already useless, and it gains a lot of speed. So overall, this machine is better than the T-64B. But this is not taking into account something that was said on the Russian stream, which has been clarified here by a guy called Ajdaha. So thank you for doing that. I'll leave a link to the post on War Thunder Reddit in the description here. So he says the T-80B, which is the one we're looking at right now, with additional protection reflectance will be on the battle rating of 10.0. So this is going to be a 10.0 vehicle. It was on the stream. That makes sense. It will receive a modification with dynamic protection, contact 5, as in contact 1 on the T-64BV, but not necessarily in this patch. So contact 5 is able to protect against armor-piercing feathered sub-caliber projectile. Currently available shells are identical to the T-64BV, as I said, but over time it will be given more powerful ammunition. So to me, when I read that, that sounds like we're going to get even more modern stuff, which makes sense. You know, the ideas of this, an Abrams with a 120 has been floated around a lot, the Leopard 2A5, 2A7, even to 2AV, if you wanted to throw in the prototype. The Challenger Mark IV has also been talked about, the Challenger 2, of course. The STC2, I suppose, if you want a slightly worse machine than the Type 90. But the thing is, this is another machine that is going to get upgrades over time. And with the Contact 5, if you don't know what the Contact 5 is, on the T-64BV, it has Contact 1. This is mostly designed to stop heat, anything with the idea of HE in its name. The idea is it hits the ERA and it explodes on contact instead of going into the actual armor. Contact 5 is slightly different. It's also designed to defend or deflect against APF SDS as well. The rough estimates that I've been able to gather, and also from talking to people on the server who are very knowledgeable about this stuff, it takes away the effectiveness of stuff like heat and AT gems by about 60%, and then the effectiveness of stuff like APF SDS, so AP rounds, around about 20%. So if you knock off 20% of the pen on stuff like the Type 90 and the 2A4, that's what we're looking at, being able to actually pen it. So the way that Contact 5 works is it's two pieces of metal with a charge in the center of it. The idea is the APF SDS, or the heat, hits the metal on the outside, triggers the explosive, so it has a counterforce pushing it away, meaning that it loses a lot of its penetration. So see it as a counterweight. See it as a bing bong kind of thing. So it's trying to come in, hits it, and explodes out. Now, obviously, sometimes this will reflect the shell, but the majority of the time, it'll just lose a lot of its penetrating power as it's going through. So that's what Contact 5 does. It's also something that's also used today. What is interesting as well is this idea of it might get better rounds over time. Seeing as the T-72, the T-80, and the T-64 guns are all incredibly similar to each other, the only difference with the T-72 is the fact that the auto-loading mechanism is different. That could mean not just an upgrade in ammunition for the T-80B, but also for the T-64, the T-64 and the T-72 with its upgraded ammunition. So at least when we talk about new vehicles being added to the game, as we get more modernized, at least these Soviet vehicles are going to be upgraded and should stand the test of time better than stuff like the Challenger, which is kind of just sat there weeping completely. But yeah, the best way to look at this, slightly less armor, but that doesn't generally matter at top tier, especially with 120s running around. And with that said, the massive boost in engine power will give this thing a lot better of a time compared to the T-64. It also means that now the Soviets have two top-tier battle tanks, putting them on the same level as something like Germany, where they don't have such a slow MBT. I know a lot of people say the T-64A was, a top-tier main battle tank. I disagree. It had too many issues with it, whereas the T-80, it improves on some of those issues. So overall, the Soviets are getting this. They're also getting the T-55AM. It's another 10-0 vehicle that I'll probably never play, but if you're interested in that stuff, it means that the Soviets are going to be much more useful at top tier, with a little bit of speed behind them. Talking about a speed demon, we have the Char 25t, or the back chat, as it is known as. The Châtillon 25t is a French light tank prototype developed in the 1950s as a replacement for the AMX-13. Although French military officials didn't give the prototype a passing grade, War Thunder tankers will be sure to find it as a new favorite among the numerous new vehicles coming to the game in Update 1.81. The first thing many tankers will correctly observe is that the Char 25t is its increased size over the AMX-13. Although the engineering decision would increase the vehicle's overall weight significantly, it did create more room in the hull, which allowed the crew count to be increased by 1 and the armor protection to be increased up to 50mm as well. Compensating for the heavier weight of the vehicle is a 500 horsepower engine, allowing the Char 25t to reach an excellent top speed of 65 kilometers an hour on paved roads, both forwards and in reverse, which is kind of funny. Getting to a good position early on in a random battle is certainly an advantage, but it's arguably of no good use if you don't have a good gun to make the most out of it. Fortunately, the Char 25t doesn't disappoint in this aspect either. Being outfitted with a 90mm cannon coupled with an autoloading mechanism, the Char 25t is more than well equipped to wreak havoc among the enemy, especially when operating at the flanks and engaging targets up to medium distances. So for me personally, this is the pick of the litter so far from what we've seen from Gamescom, and the reason for this is because it's a light tank, which gets scouting. It was shown on the stream that it gets scouting. It's a little bit nippy. It has the autoloader, and it has the gun from the AMX M4 at a lower BR of 6.7. Even though they talk about how tall and big this machine is, it's still shorter than the majority of the mediums that France have at rank 4. So what we're getting here is a collection of stuff I really like. The gun itself, a large gun on a light tank / scout tank is really, really nice, to be honest. It's something that we don't have a lot in the game, and if we do have them, they're kind of premiums. So with that said, this thing shouldn't get hull broken as well on top of that, so it's got the armor to be able to not withstand a hit, but not get hull broken. It has the extra crew. It's at, as I said, 6.7, and when you compare it to another machine like the AMX-13 in the tree, it's just infinitely better in every way. On top of it, it also has a 7.5mm machine gun that you can see on the top there. There we go. The only issue that I saw from it on the stream was the fact that the engine power didn't seem that good, but there was comments on the stream saying that maybe they didn't max out the modifications, and obviously because it's a test stream, not everything will be fully done up. But for me personally, with the Châtillon Char 25t, it makes me incredibly excited. It fits my style of playstyle. I like this idea of finding a position early, getting a bunch of scouts off, trying to help the team, and then mopping up after 5 or 10 minutes when the team is struggling. The fact that it has a really good gun on it, and it has the auto-loading system from the AMX M4, it makes me really, really excited to play this machine. And with all the other French autoloaders, at 6.7 you can run a pretty good lineup right now. Lorraine 40T comes to mind, the CA Lorraine, if you want to throw that in. You could also throw in the AAA, which is nice. And then you have some good planes to at least go around it, around that BR. You could also up-tier this thing. I would be confident in up-tiering this because of the gun and also using it as a scout. I mean, the French have some really nice 7.0 autoloaders. So throwing this thing in at the same time with those autoloaders, I think would work really well. Yeah, the only issue I can see is the fact that its acceleration might not be what is required. But the AMX-13s already struggle with that, so if this thing even improves a little bit on that, then we have a winner, in my opinion. So yeah, they've shown a lot of vehicles now which are at 9.0 or above 9.0, and to be honest, I would love to see more mid-tier stuff. So seeing something like a Char 25t, even though it's not mid-tier, it's closer than 9.0. The other one which isn't 9.0 is of course the Sergeant York, but we'll talk about the Sergeant York in the next video. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.